Video number 2. Something not related to the war in Afghanistan, but it is military related. The Marines, according to... I had heard about this actually a couple years ago, but it finally is being enacted. The Marines are losing their battle tanks. They're losing their main battle tanks, apparently some heavy guns and stuff like that as well. And the justification behind that is that basically they ran some war game simulations and they found that basically these large, heavy, hot targets are very, very vulnerable to long-range precision strike, which is something we know. We've always known. And they came to the conclusion, well, the force that sees the enemy first are the ones who usually win the fight. That's true. That's always been true. That's the case in air combat, and that's the case in ground combat as well. That's why intelligence is so important. That's why a small force can defeat a large force if they've got better eyes on the situation. But the solution that they've come up with is basically removing the heavy weapons, like the Abrams tank, from Marine Corps arsenal. I don't agree with this in the sense of I have not been convinced by the people who have made the decision that that's actually a solution to what they're talking about. I think they one of the things they were citing is basically the Turks fighting the Syrians in northern Syria, and the Turks, who are, they're a NATO power, they got a lot of problems, but they're not too dissimilar for us in the way they function, and they pretty much had drones and they had eyes on the situation, and the Syrian armor divisions, which were massive, just got utterly annihilated. We had a light force on the ground that ran into a Russian armor division. They were mercenaries or whatever, and this was, I guess, almost about 2 years ago at this point. And we had a couple special ops guys with light vehicles, and basically they got a column of Russian armor was coming for them, and we retaliated with essentially attack helicopters and artillery, just straight up artillery. And because we had good eyes on the situation, we annihilated them. Their tanks did nothing for them. They just were basically heavy coffins. Guys got obliterated. And it was because they engaged a force they couldn't really quite get a handle on. They didn't have air superiority. They didn't have intelligence superiority. And they got their shit pushed in by the U.S. military. A small U.S. military force with just a lot of long-range guns. Now, the way I look at tanks is it's kind of like, well, if we have guns that can penetrate body armor, why issue body armor to people? And that's kind of the same logic I'm seeing kind of being told with these Abrams tanks being pulled, is that basically like, well, if the enemy is going to has a chance that they're going to get intelligence and air superiority, and then they're going to be able to use precision strikes to eliminate our hot heavy guns from long range, why deploy them? Now, I think they might be skipping the problem. The problem is, how do you deny the enemy intelligence? How do you disguise a tank? Maybe less tanks. Maybe the combined arms means less heavy guns, less armor. But I think the idea of just flatly removing them without a doctrinal replacement, I mean, nothing quite holds an area down like a tank. Tanks are, unless you have the right weapons to take out the tank, there's nothing you can do about it. An Abrams tank in an urban area or an island, when the airspace is contested, in theory they could drop a bomb and maybe take it out, but suppose we have air superiority. You think the Marines who are then on the ground are going to say, yeah, you know what, I'm glad we didn't have those tanks, because the enemy aircraft that are no longer a threat could have taken them out. It doesn't. I think they may be missing the point. Now, I don't know what's going to change in the doctrine of the Marine Corps. I guess, I don't know, light armor. I'm not even really sure how to describe what they're trying to do here. But I'm very wary anytime a weapon system is phased out without a proper replacement, because I don't think tanks are obsolete. I don't think the main battle tank is obsolete. I think that there's a couple of European countries that thought about phasing them out, and then immediately they start getting things like the Piranha basically like the Striker MGS, where it's like a light APC with a heavy cannon on it. And then they're like, oh well, its survivability isn't good enough, but they still need the big gun. And it's like, well, you had a perfectly good main battle tank, and you just threw it away because you had to change the way you use it. And I feel like that would be like saying, well, we're going to get rid of bomber aircraft because enemy fighters can shoot them down. That's what it seems like to me, and I feel like that's the arguments I've been seeing for taking away the Marines tanks. Now, I'd love to hear counter arguments, and not from pencil pushers, and not from but like somebody who actually said, yeah, this is hampering having the responsibility of tanks is hampering the Marine Corps' capabilities. I haven't heard anybody say that, but nonetheless, they're getting rid of them. So I'm going to pay attention to this because I'm very interested in the doctrine, and I don't want our Marines to be without basically heavy weapons, because that's they already replaced on the squad level. Everybody essentially has either a DMR or an automatic rifle version of the IAR-27. The squads went from 4 to 5 guys to 3 guys. So Marines they're trying something new. Apparently, one of their groups is basically just issuing like suppressors on every weapon. Okay, I'm totally fine with them experimenting, and it's better for the Marines to experiment because they're a smaller group, as opposed to if you try to experiment across like the Army. It's like it's just so many more personnel to deal with. But I mean, if I was a Marine and the idea that Marine Corps tanks are never there to back me up, or if I'm a commander, I don't have even the option to send main battle tank armor into a situation that may be dicey. I don't think I'd like that. I think I'd be worried. But I don't know. I thought I would talk about that for a little while because it's interesting to me, and it's a little concerning. So that's all.